You're listening to Puck and Roll. Here's your host, Patrick Lordy.
Today, hockey fans, whether you like it or not, there is no escaping the topic. You guessed it, we will of course be talking about Jesperi Kotkaniemi. But before that, we will have the pleasure of chatting with Rocco Rosa, who is the special guest for this episode. Of course, you will also be updated with news, learn some history, discover some prospects, and more. This is episode 6 of Puck and Roll. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Puck and Roll, your weekly roundtable about all things Montreal Canadiens. I am your host, Patrick Lorty, and as usual, we have a jam-packed show for you, so let's get this thing rolling right away and send it up to Maria Buabdo, who has all your latest news from the past week with her segment, The Habs Blitz.
This is The Habs Blitz with Maria Buabdo.
Hey everyone, I'm Maria Buabdo and this is the Habs Blitz with all your news and rumors from the past week. Let's start with the Women's World Tournament. Team Canada won the gold medal in the final against Team USA with captain Marie-Philippe Poulin scoring the game-winning goal in overtime. She sniped the puck into and out of the net so fast that no one other than her saw it at first. Both teams kept playing until the buzzer finally went off a few seconds later and Team Canada celebrated properly. We could say they even celebrated a bit too much. Forward Blair Turnbull broke her leg, but she was brought back on the ice on a stretcher to accept her medal with a big smile. Now the news that has kept all Habs fans on their toes for the past few days. Jesperi Kotkaniemi received and signed an offer sheet by the Carolina Hurricanes. The story actually goes back to 2019 when the Canadiens sent an offer sheet to Sebastian Aho, but it was quickly matched by the Hurricanes. However, whether this is revenge or not, Marc Bergevin will have to make a decision soon, and no matter what it is, it will have a big impact on the team. Either Bergevin will be paying Kotkaniemi $6.1 million next year, or the Habs will take the Hurricanes' first and third round picks, leaving them with the possibility to start the season without a solid second-line center. But one player said he was ready to step up and play at center if needed, and that's Jonathan Druin. Personally, I'm really excited to see him play again, and I think playing at center could be a really fresh start for him. A new season, a new position, so why not? Druin is also getting involved with the community again. He held his golf tournament this week and broke his record, raising $810,000 for the Fondation Chim. Last but not least, yesterday the OHL announced that they had suspended Habs' first-round pick Logan Mailloux indefinitely for, quote, inappropriate conduct of an OHL player, unquote. After being on a loan and playing in Europe last season, he was supposed to be back with the London Knights, and he will have the opportunity to apply for reinstatement starting January 1st of next year. The decision will be made based on his behavior and on the, quote, appropriate treatment, counseling, mentoring, and or education he receives from the date of this decision, unquote. This forces Mailloux to take a break from hockey, but allows him to focus on his growth as a person first, just like he said he wanted to do before the draft. If he shows improvement, he should easily be reinstated with his OHL team and be given a chance to develop and become the player he has the potential to be.
Thank you, Maria. Also, from everyone here at Puck and Roll, we are giving a shout out to all the kids and parents currently in training camp or even starting their season. This goes out to all of you who have to wake up early for games and practices, to all those liters of Tim Hortons you're going to buy on your way to the arena, to the warm blankets you need to survive the frigid old buildings that will become your second homes, to the pizza parties, the game winners, the heartbreakers, and tear-jerkers. This one goes out to you. Players and parents, have a great 2021-2022 hockey season. And now it is my distinct pleasure to welcome the guest of our episode, excuse me. It is my pleasure to welcome our guest, Mr. Rocco Rosa. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
And with us today, Joshua Rosa, Scott Cowan, and Sebastian High. And Joshua, I'm actually going to send it out to you first because now we're hearing a Rosa. We're hearing another Rosa. Would you like to make the formal introduction?
Yeah, it's not a coincidence. This is my dad, Rocco Rosa, Rosa Senior, if you will. We're here talking about we'll probably end up talking about the past a little bit because he is a bit older than me. I'll say that. I won't go into specific dates or ages or anything.
You got to remain polite. He still remains your dad, and he knows where you live, my friend.
Yes, he does.
So we're actually going to start with, well, first of all, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here on us, Rocco, because you've been, since day one, a huge supporter of the Puck and Roll podcast, and we greatly appreciate the feedback you've given us, the comments you've left us as well, sharing all of our social media, especially on Facebook. It is an absolute pleasure to have you, and thank you very much. It's a big deal for us because this is something that we want to do. It doesn't matter who necessarily you are, what kind of background you come from. The fact of the matter is, on this show, we love to have regular fans, and we love to know their stories. We love to know their backgrounds. And in your case, your background, starts a little earlier than most of us, but you've seen the greats. You've seen John Béliveau. You've seen Guy Lafleur. You've seen Yvan Cournoyer. You've seen Bob Gainey, so like you see the glory days of the Montreal Canadiens. But let's start at the very beginning. What exactly made you fall in love with hockey? I mean, is it, just the game itself? Is it the sweaters? I mean, like take yourself back, to that, to the time where you were little Rocco, let's say, and try to remember what exactly is it that made you fall in love with this amazing game that is hockey.
When I look back at it, it really wasn't the NHL. It wasn't players. It wasn't anything like that brought me into a passion of hockey. It's actually playing hockey on the streets. I never played on the ice. I never played in an organized league or anything like that. As I grew up, I spent some time on the ice and wasn't the greatest skater or hockey player, but really it was just, every night going out after dinner and hanging out with a bunch of kids on the block and pulling the nets out in the middle of the street, and you hear the thing, car, you pull the nets to
exactly.
the side and you bring it back out, right? And I remember just playing hours and hours of hockey every night after dinner on the weekends. It was just something that we did at that time. I can't even remember who kind of exposed me to this. It just happened, right? It was just something that we did.
I think it's just in our DNA as Canadians, right? It's like the second a snowflake shows up or a little breeze starts hitting our skin and we're like, hockey time. It's just, we almost get engaged right away. And speaking of engagement, so once you grew up and everything, did you have an actual favorite team you were rooting for?
Well, I was thinking back on that, and I tried to figure out why I became a Habs fan, because I grew up in Hamilton, Ontario. So the choice was Toronto at the time. But when I kind of was looking around and thinking, okay, how did that happen? So I really started enjoying like ball hockey and then the guys and all that stuff. And it was really between the years of 1975 and 1980. So that's a 5-year span there that Montreal dominated.
Oh, yeah.
They took the cup home every year between, 75, 76 season to the 78, 79 season. So just, the Canadian dream, right? Win the Stanley Cup. So just being exposed to a team that was winning while we were playing on the streets, we became, the Steve Shutt, the Ken Dryden, while we're playing on the streets. So that being the main news source of the NHL, that kind of swayed me into becoming a Montreal fan.
And who, when you were playing ball hockey and you're on the street, who were you pretending to be? Because we all imagined, we were, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and here it comes. In my case, it was Mario Lemieux on the breakaway, and then of course you win the game. So who was your player at the time?
Well, obviously, if I was in net, it was Ken Dryden. That was a no-brainer. When I was playing, I was a bigger kid, so I was kind of more on the defensive side. So Larry Robinson was my guy on the defense.
Big Bird.
And the Big Bird, yeah. And then, of course, if you're playing, outside the blue line, you're going to be Guy Lafleur. Like that's That's the way it works.
It's a must, yeah.
Those were the three big ones. But there was Tremblay, Ray Jean Houle, Steve Shutt, Bob Gainey. There's just a number of people that you can call on the powers of these players while you're in the middle of the hockey or the middle of the street playing hockey.
Growing up, my dad always had that sentiment where he said that the Stanley Cup parade happened so often in Montreal that if they missed it one year, he said, I'll just go the next summer. It'll be there. And obviously, having grown up around all those big star players like Guy Lafleur, and back when the Habs were the best team in the NHL, what was that experience like, being able to sort of see the Stanley Cup parade that often and know that you were the best in the NHL?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's different. It's a different era now of what we're exposed to in hockey. I mean, there's so much information and online anywhere, where it was basically the newspapers. Whenever we saw that and on the news, like the 6:00 news, there would be all kinds of information on going into the playoffs and who's the team that's going to beat Montreal this year or try to beat Montreal this year. That was kind of the news headlines. I remember one spot, there was a bank down the street from us growing up, and I wasn't sure if it was Toronto Dominion or not, but they gave away these little magazines, these little hockey magazines, and we would go, like, it would be a monthly thing, and the kids would all run to this bank, and they were fantastic. It was supposed to be for their customers, I guess, but we would walk in there and they would just be waiting for us and handing out these flyers and magazines. So it was, that excitement around, especially around playoff time. These things were things that we looked forward to, that we're excited to get that magazine, be the first guy after school to go to the bank and bring home a magazine, and then leaf through it for any Montreal pitchers and be upset when there wasn't. So, but yeah, so it was a very different time in getting information. It wasn't as easily accessible as it is now.
A lot of kids kind of grew up, well, at least my age, kind of grew up reading The Sweater and that classic book. And I guess for you, it was like that with the Leafs Canadiens rivalry. If you wore the Leafs sweater, you were lynched by your friends, or you were seen as something else by your friends.
That's right. It was great as kids because everybody had their teams. Like, we weren't stuck on, everybody's got to be Toronto, Montreal. You'd find different names, and everybody, like, it's kind of like now, everybody has a different kind of pull to a certain team, a color or a name. And it came out on the streets. It was fantastic.
So I know at home you have a certain special signed jersey downstairs. And I know you've collected some other memorabilia in the past, namely hockey cards. Can you tell us a little about your collection that you've had and what happened to it?
Yeah, so I have actually a jersey that belongs to Josh. I'm storing for now. It is Guy Lafleur. His name does come up.
It's come up quite often lately, and I think I'm starting to see a correlation. I mean, at first we're thinking, oh, this is kind of cool tying with history, but now that you're mentioning that you own one, I'm starting to think that Josh is after your inheritance here or something. Like, buddy, calm down.
Could be. I did go to a memorabilia show that Guy Lafleur was actually part of, and I don't know if I can say this. Josh, I think, was probably just an infant at the time, and so after his little spiel and they did the auction, I actually saw him standing by the bar, and I went and had a cigarette and a beer with him.
No way.
And the one question I had to him at the time was, are you going to go and coach Montreal? And he said, no, I'm not that stupid. So I don't even know if Josh knows that, but a story that I was just kind of, while I was preparing for this, some of the thoughts. So it's kind of cool. So the hockey card thing, I don't know if you guys knew this, what would happen with hockey cards, especially during recess and lunch at schools. They're used as games. So you would take these cards and you would throw them up against, pardon me?
Odds and Evens was one of them, I believe.
Yeah. So one was you would set up 5 or 10 cards along the wall standing up, and you'd have to knock them down. And the person that knocked the last card down would collect whatever pile of cards were on the floor.
Wow.
Odds and evens, flips. So you would flip them up and you would name, is it going to land face up or face down? So it was, we eagerly go buy these cards when we get 25 cents or 35 cents, whatever that the cost was way back when, and you get